Oh God, we're late. We're late. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dynasty Stock Market with Biggs and Dynasty
F key.
F Key,
Yeah. What's going
Dynasty
on,
Football
y'all?
Key. This is the debut show of the new restructured Dynasty Stock Market. It's Biggs still in your living room or mobile phone or whatever, and Alec is the new host. So we have been throwing this together over the last few days. So pardon my tardiness and lack of preparedness. Uh, we will get to everything that we need to get to. It's the dynasty stock market. We're talking dynasty values. We're talking a whole bunch of stuff, and this is the 2024 season kickoff special.
Yeah, we made it. Let's go.
So today we're going to be talking. We're taking questions. We got answers for your questions, so pop your questions in the chat. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff. So that if you're on the Twitter side, go over to YouTube and subscribe. If you're on the YouTube side, go over to Twitter and follow Player Profiler News. That's PP underscore news. And also our news archive at playerprofiler.com/news. All right, let's get the show started, shall we? Shout out to Brittany Foxworth, our designer who did the titles and got us a song on there that doesn't brick us with copyright
Yeah.
restrictions. So we appreciate you. All right, so let's what should we do? We're free forming this episode, you guys. There is no formal structure. Let's
Yeah. So
let's
throughout the whole live, guys, we're doing AMA, ask us anything and we will get some answers for you. But look, man, I'm thinking rookie draft stock report might be a good spot to start because look, we haven't had any games yet, but the reason we're getting in early on this is because there has been a lot that's changed since the draft, right? So
yes.
I'm going to start with and just get it out of the way a what I would say is maybe neutral to down stock with Ricky Pearsall. So Ricky
Mm,
Pearsall had a actually quite an eventful offseason, right? He had a little bit of a nagging injury, so he wasn't able to practice all of the time. And then you're thinking, okay, stock up with Brandon Ayuk. Maybe he doesn't sign or gets traded, but Brandon Ayuk does get signed. So good for them. So for the 2024 season with Ayuk, Debo Samuels, Kittle and CMC, there's just not necessarily too much production we were going to expect from Ricky Pearsall. But guess what? That he gets in a robbery and he gets shot and now he's on IR for the first 4 weeks. So there's just a guarantee we're not going to see this guy. So I said it was a little bit murky if it's stock down or neutral because we haven't seen anything, which sometimes is a good thing. It
right.
wasn't that he was bad and that's why his stock's down. But I will say there's at least room for buy low. And I would not have wanted to buy low just because Brandon Ayuk signed. But now I think the buy low could just continue to dip further just with people panicking because it is kind of a rocky start for his career. Just no doubt.
Yeah, and the flip side of that is Jacob Cowing. Uh,
Ooh.
Jacob Cowing is in a position right now where if Ricky Pearsall was going to be doing some kickoff returns or something like that, inserting himself into the offense more, Jacob Cowing, all he has to do is jump Jawan Jennings. And if he answers the call on the field, he could see a boost that his draft capital might have kept him suppressed versus Ricky Pearsall earlier. So Jacob Cowing is he's been a target of mine just like straight up analytics. I was trying to grab him and stick him on every taxi squad that I could just to kind of like sit on him and wait because he's so good. But but yeah, and the Ricky Pearsall thing, I mean, like you said, it was up in the air. What's going to happen? Is he going to get a boost because Ayuk goes somewhere else? Is that going to put Debo in wide receiver 1 position, and then Ricky Pearsall comes in at wide receiver 3 at worst, with Jawan Jennings in the 2 or whatever? Then Ayuk comes back. So, okay, wheels up for Ricky Pearsall. He got over his shoulder capsule injury and his hamstring and all that stuff. And then, boom, he gets shot in the chest. Like,
Man, brutal.
wow.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, hate to see it, but this isn't the first time we've seen someone start their career getting shot. Brian Robinson recovered from that and had a pretty good season from all accounts. Ricky Pearsall was able to just walk away from the scene of the crime, walk himself to the hospital. So the guy
And,
is,
and why is
legend in the
that?
making.
Why is it not the only time ever?
I know.
Why is this multiple times that we've
a good
had
question.
to say rookie gets shot preseason and his draft stock goes, like, why?
Oh my God. Brutal. Well, man, so do you have one that's or maybe a riser for you? A little bit better news.
I have a riser. I did want to go back to Ricky Pearsall real quick.
Okay.
He we shouldn't forget that he's an older prospect. He's coming into the league at 24. But his ADP right now is sitting about 111, and his stock actually has gone up according to the player profiler dynasty values. However, I don't think it's been updated since the actual shooting. So he's right around wide receiver 47. I think that's his absolute ceiling pre-shooting. For him to get the rookie production in that 49ers offense, don't forget, there is only one team that threw fewer times than the 49ers last year, and that was the Atlanta Falcons under Arthur Smith. So it's not like the 49ers have a hugely productive throw the ball 650 time offense. They're 31st in pass production or dropbacks.
Yeah.
Now, granted, Brock Purdy is one of the most efficient quarterbacks, and he was second in points, fantasy points per dropback among quarterbacks in the NFL last year, but he also dropped back fewer than just about anybody. So I feel like calling Ricky Pearsall a top 48 wide receiver that's a lot of wish casting. So just looking, I think Josh Downs has a better path to production. I think Jacoby Myers has a better path to production. And then at wide receiver 53, this guy is going to get a little boost. Now, you may not be able to see the whole thing because of camera angles, but behind me to my left is a jersey. It's an autographed Jamar Chase jersey that I won by getting to the final table at the poker tournament, the Fantasy Football Expo, right? Well, guess who's not practiced this entire preseason? Ooh. Guess who's holding out for a new contract, even though he still has 2 years left on his other one? Guess who is causing more noise than T. Higgins, who's actually come to work and is playing on his franchise tag? And that would be Jamar Chase. Now, what does that do? That opens up a spot for Andre Yoshevitz to come in and be the wide receiver 3 out of the slot. But it also gives a little boost to Jermaine Burton. Jermaine Burton has come into the league as a rookie with a lot of hype, a lot of, well, you just wait until T. Higgins leaves. And his ADP reflects that. Ranked wide receiver 53. That's not somebody that you want to put in your flex. But guess what? If Jamar Chase isn't on the field and Jermaine Burton is, volume is king, and Jermaine Burton is going to show what he can do. He doesn't have quite the feel in the offense that Andre Yoshevitz does, and he's not as big as Andre Yoshevitz. But if talent wins, then Jermaine Burton should get a pretty good boost from Jamar Chase being out for the time being.
Yeah, I made sure to grab all the Andre Yoshevitz I could on waivers earlier this offseason, but I was really very big on Jermaine Burton too. Did some video breakdowns on him. I mean, guy seemed like he should have been drafted higher. So I think that's why they for sure were not going to pay Higgins. But with Jamar, it's always tough until they actually hold out to see if they're not going to play week 1. But we just seen this Bengals team always have some kind of injury and a lot of times it's due to something in the offseason, whether it's a lingering Burrow calf or it's a contract issue. Maybe Jamar Chase, pulls something isn't full go, or maybe it's an excuse. We don't know. I still think he's going to get it done, or get on the field. I don't know about getting a deal done. But yeah, a lot of room is opening up for some of these other guys. And dynasty wise, stock up for both, because they've got to figure out a way to pay all of these guys. And they always had a Tyler Boyd in that third slot that actually paid dividends for us. So even if Higgins is gone, that could be Yoshivas and Burton in that wide receiver 2-3 role, actually being able to produce for our lineups.
Right. And I mean, one of the things that you look at is a veteran like Jamar Chase, how much time does he actually need to practice in the preseason? But the fact is that he has not been on the field with Joe Burrow once this year.
Oh, hey, remember, he sat out that final year of college. I mean, this is a guy who's not a stranger to sitting out to make sure that his money doesn't get messed up, right?
Right. Yeah, no, he's savvy. Real quickly, I want to shout out Jamie in the chat once again. You and I just talked pre-show about how we missed each other at the Fantasy Football Expo. Did you get a chance to meet Jamie?
Hey, man, I met so many people. I
Okay.
literally have no idea at this point.
So
But what's going on, Jamie?
Jamie is a regular. He's in all of the chats of almost all the shows that I do. And
Welcome.
he's solid. And then I was sitting at the beer pong tournament on the Saturday night, and all of a sudden here's Jamie, and I was like, whoa. So I actually got to meet him.
Nice, Jamie. You would have noticed me. I had a baby with me and a like 5-year-old also. I was probably the only person with a baby at the expo. So yeah.
Probably there might have been some participants in the Queen's Classic that had their kids with them, and of course, their people did bring their children, but I feel, I want to say, and this is no like disrespect or anything, but I feel like in an environment like that, if I saw somebody with children, my eyes immediately went, oh, they're not here.
Oh my god.
Just because it was such a party environment, it was I would have probably thought it was weird, but I don't have any recall of seeing you seeing with you.
Yeah,
You
I
with your
never
kids.
saw you there somehow.
All right, let's hear from Matt real quick. You guys, Player Profiler just launched a new app, and it's phenomenal. I was very, very honored to be a part of the beta, the testing for it, and it's essentially, it's called Fast Draft, and the reason is because you draft fast. So
Yeah.
let's hear from Matt, and he will take a minute and explain it to you, and we'll see you on the other side.
Drafting is the best part of fantasy football.
Ooh, I feel like Matt wanted to go, now start your engines, or something with a little bit more flair at the end of
Yeah,
that.
and he did, man. This fast draft's been awesome, and I've been having fun with it. I
Yeah,
what, like 80, at least 80 in on both tournaments. So I prefer the Ricky one though. I just love Ricky drafting, and it always messes up my redraft process because I'm still taking these rookies, and now
yes.
I got to drop Pearsall and all these guys.
The Origins game is really cool. I just went in and did I want to say 19 turbo drafts last night. Um and but I did
Well, update the Pearsall
the other
one,
one.
the ranking there.
Yeah. I don't think he was like his ADP wasn't there quite there
Yeah.
yet. For like the top 80 or whatever. Um let's look at some trade values real quick. So I'm looking
Oh,
on
that's a
the
hey, not to mention, yeah, Player
full.
Profiler has a new partnership with Keep Trade Cut, and they're going to have it where you'll be able to see Keep Trade Cut values on the Player Profiler website, as well as when you go to Keep Trade Cut, the website itself, you can see the Player Profiler perspective profiles of those players as well. So, really nice partnership with those guys. They've got a great team over there.
Yeah. Well, let's look at some of that. Right now, over the last maybe 30 days, the number one trade target
Mm,
involved in 694 trades lately has been Zamir White.
yeah, love Zamir's White.
So what are we thinking about Zamir White? He's a third-year running back with essentially 4 games of experience under his. I mean, he's played in more games, but he's only been the starter for 4 games. So not a lot of tread on the tires. Came out of Georgia without a reputation for catching passes because James Cook was the one that was doing that, but seemed to acquit himself pretty well in the 4 games that Jacobs was out last year. I think he was averaging 2 to 3 targets a game, which would put him in the 50 target range, which is about where Jacobs was when he started his career. So what do you like about Zamir White? What do you dislike about Zamir White? And what would you be willing to unload to acquire Zamir White?
Man, I just had an episode with Scott Connor a few days ago, and we went kind of deep in on Zamir White. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't a fan either. It looks like Zach Schultz is not a fan, says he wouldn't touch it with the 10-foot pole. And look, for me, I actually do like Zamir White. Uh, you mentioned Georgia. I mean, they don't give any of the running backs a lot of touches. You mentioned he had the light workload year one. The guy's fresh. I don't see too much of a threat behind him in the backfield. And look, realistically, the way that Antonio Pierce has already come out and said he wants to use his run game is he's said minimum 20 touches per week. And I mean, if you look at those last 4 games last season, he had a minimum of 20 touches per
Mhm.
week. So
He
he's going to get
averaged
the ball.
21.
Yeah, he's going to get the ball, and we don't think there's going to be a lot of touchdown upside. So we'll see what the goal line work looks like. If it's just raw yardage and you're not getting any catches, yes, it's going to be rough. But I think he can get at minimum 6 TDs. That's not beautiful. I want more than that, but uh, maybe he can get some 80-yard games, a couple 100 yards in there. We'll see. But price wise, to your final question, dynasty wise, second round pick. If you can get him for, to be honest, 2026 or later one, but I'm excited about this next class. You know, late second. If you think it's late second, I'm totally fine with that.
Okay, that's fair. I do want to throw a couple numbers out at you. Excuse me. Now, saying that the last him starting the last 4 games of the 2023 season and pointing out that that's a small sample size cuts both ways. So to say that he only had 1 rushing touchdown in that time, you can point to that and say, look, that's a small sample size. Chances are there's positive regression. You should have more opportunities than that, especially if you're getting 21 carries a game. On the flip side of that, saying that he averaged 4.67 yards per carry in those 4 games, maybe he's not going to sustain that because that's small sample size shenanigans, right? But the fact remains, he averaged 4.67 yards per carry on 21 carries per game over those 4 games, including 2 to 3 targets on top of that. If you extrapolate over the course of a 17-game fully healthy season at 21 carries per game and 4.67 yards per carry, you're in the range of 1,600 rushing yards. I'm not saying Zamir White is going to get that. Let's call that his ceiling. If he matches his efficiency from the last 4 games of last season this year over the course of a full season, we're talking competitive with the rushing leaders. Now, Christian McCaffrey led all running backs in rushing attempts last year. I want to say it was slightly under 280. 21 carries per game puts Zamir White in the 350 carry range for the season. Again, he's not even going to come close to that. That's not a realistic thing. People don't do that anymore, especially when you have Alexander Madison and Amir Abdullah and Dylan Laube in the backfield with you. So I'm not saying that he's going to reach those numbers, but the fact is that right now he is currently ranked as the RB, where to go? I just had it, 37 on Player Profiler. Now, I have a distinct feeling that Zamir White is going to absolutely shatter that ranking. He has the potential to be a top 24 back, and he's not even in the top 36. So if you can get him at that cost where you're drafting him along with your flex RBs or in a 0 RB situation, and he finishes in the top 24, that's an absolute smash. Looking over the trade history over the last 30 days, somebody got a 25 round 1 and a 26 round 2 for him.
Wow. Good for you.
Yeah. Right. He was involved in a trade that was Zamir Mims, a 2027 round 4 for Javonte Williams, and a 2027 round 2. I feel like that's more in your range. Somebody still had Michael Thomas on a roster and traded him for Lockett and Bateman for Thomas and Zamir White. Christian Kirk straight up. Would you do that if you had
I'll say Christian Kirk. Yeah, just because I like to build around the receiver, so I don't have to try to figure it out later.
Would you take Zamir for Christian Kirk straight up?
Okay, so give me Zamir and then I give you Kirk. Right. If I need a running back, I'm in some teams where I am loaded at receiver because that's how I've been building. And I was kind of worried about the Christian Kirk. Maybe it was oblique or some groin injury last season. I mean, he's tough. He's playing through injuries, but I can see it might be a changing of the guard there. So it's one of those things where, yeah, Christian Kirk's great, but yeah, I could see kind of a, ships passing in the night situation with Brian Thomas Jr. when 2025 gets here. So, this is the year to sell Christian Kirk, in my opinion. And week 1 also might be the week to sell Zamir White if he can't stay healthy with that sample size. But that deal, I think I'm still leaning Kirk without knowing the roster.
Yeah. Schultze in the chat, he's the one that said that Zamir White sucks. He wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. And I know for a fact that that's not true because Schultze is my producer and co-host on other shows. And I know that he has Zamir White shares. Also, he's a Jags fan, and I know he wouldn't do Christian Kirk straight up to acquire Zamir White. But I absolutely would, just because, like you said, Brian Thomas Jr., there are some folks in the industry who absolutely love him and think that he's going to take over that Jags wide receiver room as early as this year.
Yeah, we could see it happen. First round pick for a reason.
This one is for you, Zamir White, straight up for a 2024 301. I think that's your wheelhouse right there.
Yeah, I would do that for sure. And really, it's just that when you go through these drafts, whether it's startups or like a redraft startup, there's actually a ton of running backs. There's just so many that will have a role in. Knowing we already have guys who are playing for an injured Jonathan Brooks, you've got a Chupa Hubbard that you can get 4 weeks out of. You've got the same in other backfields, right? There's just so many options that I could even get for less than the 301, just if I need some spot starts,
Yeah. All right. So I think we're simpatico here. Everybody go out there and grab Zamir White.
Yeah. Yeah. The prices haven't been too crazy. So just go get them.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. Oh, that
We've got, do you think Ramsey focuses on Brian Thomas or Gabe Davis this week? I would say, I mean, Gabe Davis is that deep threat on the outside, so probably Gabe Davis. Right now, Brian Thomas Jr., we'll see what the target share is like because he'll also be a deep threat at some point. But week one, he's not going to be on the Ricky. Maybe after halftime, after he starts cooking some guys and make some adjustments.
I feel like he should be on Brian Thomas or Christian Kirk just because Gabe Davis he's a wind sprinter, and
No
Brian
one
Thomas is
likes
going to
Gabe
be
Davis.
a more open in the middle and more of a threat. So I think Ramsey, if he's not locked down to one side, if he's traveling with a receiver, I think it's going to be they're going to try and take Brian Thomas away. All right, next one, and this this is a good one. So this is the number 2 running back in terms of trades, 609 trades over the last 30 days. Jerome Ford.
Yeah,
Now
that's the other guy I
he
was alluding to.
he's in a very, very unique situation, Jerome Ford is, because he's ostensibly the backup behind Nick Chubb, who, let's face it, is kind of an unknown entity at this point. He's had a couple of pretty horrific injuries over the last 3 or 4 years. Is he going to come back full speed? Is it going to take him? We often watch even younger running backs take a full year to get 100% back. Is is Nick Chubb gonna come back after 4 weeks or 6 weeks and need the rest of the season to ramp up and come back healthy next year? Is Jerome Ford gonna run away with that backfield? Is Pierre Strong gonna run away with that backfield? What are we doing with Jerome Ford?
Yeah, so this one, similar to the Jonathan Brooks, Chuba Hubbard situation, except Jonathan Brooks is young and just starting his career. We don't know if he had the ceiling of Nick Chubb, but he has just fresher legs, even though they're both injured legs. I would say, Chubb, you sometimes it's better to just take a bet, and this outcome that you're betting on might just be the one where Chubb is not going to come back this season, and you get a full season of Jerome Ford leading the backfield, and Chubb comes back in a complimentary role. Maybe he gets more usage in the playoffs, but I could see them just trying to get him there and let him get that full recovery that he's going to need. They're not going to rush him, and I do feel a little bit more confidence as he took that, kind of pay cut to just make sure he stayed on the team. He has that familiarity. He doesn't have to learn all of these things while rehabbing. But that still says that the team was confident enough to lower that offer, lower that contract. They were confident enough in Jerome Ford to just, handle what they needed to, or between, Donta Foreman or any of the other guys behind him. They're not worried about their run game and being able to figure that out. They can just go sign Kareem Hunt again if they if they really need to. But I'm in on Jerome Ford.
Nobody wants that.
I mean, I was able to trade him away for a first in the heat of last season. I just, even now with the more solidified situation where we know for sure these first 4 weeks, which matter, we want to win these first 4 games of the season. I still don't see people going out and paying a ton for Jerome Ford, so he might be a little bit of a steal. And I again bet on that outcome where he's the starter all season. You might be able to just get him for a late second, or I would feel better about an early third, but no one's just going to give up a starting running back for nothing.
Some of the trades that he's been involved in a super flex half tight end premium, a 2025 second rounder straight up. This one is kind of mind boggling. It's a 10-team league, super flex. But it's Travis Etienne and a 2025 first rounder for Jerome Ford and Garrett Wilson. That one's tough. I don't know which side. I love Travis Etienne this year, but he's also coming up on year 3. That's a tough one.
Yeah, if I'm not doing it, just straight up give me the player. It's a little too convoluted. They probably had other things they needed also in the deal, to kind of help build out their roster.
Now back to Nick Chubb for a second. let us not forget that he is 28. And what is the age wall for running backs? 28.
28.
And is that just an age wall for running backs that have been healthy, or running
All
backs
running
with
backs. Yeah.
catastrophic injuries in their
Two.
history?
Multiple.
I can think of a 28-year-old running back, or a running back who hit age 28 last year, Austin Eckler. Completely fell off the cliff. So I don't know if I'm ever investing in Nick Chubb ever again. And if Jerome Ford does Zamir White in his 4-game audition, that could
Yeah.
be a smash.
Yeah, because for the team perspective, he'll have the momentum of just the game planning and all of those things and just be in full swing. So even the day Nick Chubb's ready, it's going to be a slow transition if there is one.
All right, I don't want to do quarterbacks because the top two quarterbacks on the board in terms of trades are Sam Darnold and Gardner Minshew, and we don't need to venture into that territory. Jake Ferguson is the number one traded tight end over the last 30 days. Let's talk about wide receiver. I could do the number one, but I will do the number two involved in trades. 522 trades over the last 30 days. I'm giving, let's find a good one. I'm giving Calvin Ridley and Daniel Jones for your Jackson Smith and Jigba.
I think so. I mean, a lot of the teams I'm trying to win now. I feel pretty good about Ridley with knowing Hopkins is older and coming off of that injury. I mean, the year before Hopkins had that PD suspension, so it's like I don't know what that was. Maybe I'm reading too much into that, but I just think Hopkins is kind of on the way out. And year one, when you bring in a new receiver, usually you do try to feed them. So that's what I think the Titans will do. If you just kind of squint, you could see the Titans as one of those sleeper offenses that are about to take a big step. It just depends if Levis is good. If Levis is good, then this could be great for Ridley. And, Ridley kind of had a little bit of bad luck with touchdowns this past season. JSN, it's like kind of regardless this season, 2024, any guy who's on a team with two other receivers of that caliber, it's just not going to be like, oh, here's an explosive season we're about to expect from Jackson Smith and Jigba. It might come down the line, but that's not even really what it is for me. It's more just give me someone I know is going to produce this year. I'm not a big fan of Daniel Jones, but it's a quarterback. If it's super flex, maybe
Sure.
when it turns into a bloodbath like it has been the past couple seasons, and Jones is a part of that, but maybe he comes out unhurt and he's one of those guys that are actually in your lineup because everyone else is injured.
Yeah, I absolutely love Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's coming into his second year. He wasn't as bad last year as people give him credit for, as people thought. And also, it's a Ryan Grubb offense. And also, Geno Smith isn't a terrible quarterback. He's a really, really accurate deep ball thrower. And DK Metcalf is not quite the route tree participant that Jackson Smith and Jigba can be. Jackson Smith and Jigba was the number one wide receiver in the rookie class in 2023. All things considered, I think that he has a huge year, one that not a lot of people see coming. One of the two trades, one straight up for Isaiah Pacheco and one straight up for Saquon Barkley. I feel like if you're in win now mode, you give up Jackson Smith and Jigba for Isaiah Pacheco. If you are in building mode, you give up Saquon Barkley immediately for Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah, if you're a rebuilder, it's just hard to hold on to these running backs. So it kind of makes sense there. Barkley, I just can't imagine him having too much time left after the Philly contract. Jigba's got 10 years in the league.
Yeah, and if Nick Chubb is 28,
there's a lot of 28-year-old running backs out here.
Yeah, then that makes Saquon. Well, he's 27, but It's his 6th year. If you don't want to look at the age cliff, look at the experience cliff. He's been in the league for 6 years. He's also suffered a couple of catastrophic injuries. And in fact, I had in one of my important leagues, I had Saquon and Nick Chubb, drafted them both,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
both
Ugh.
broke themselves.
You thought
by
you had a
week
super
3.
team for a little
Yeah.
moment, right?
That's the kind of situation that causes somebody to just shift everything to 0 RB.
Yeah, it's just nightmare fuel. Yeah, it happens. It happens. But hey, I don't blame you for trying. And yeah, with Pacheco, it's more like, look, guys on the Chiefs, they drafted him late. They've shown they don't have to overinvest in running back, even though they did that with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But they've learned that lesson, and I wouldn't be surprised if when Pacheco's last 2 years are up, then they might just move on to someone else. And just talking about how we have all these 28-year-olds. I mean, we see these college games going on. The changing of the guards coming pretty soon. There's going to be a whole new wave of fresh backs jumping right in there. So, don't hold on to these guys too tightly.
Right, Jalen Wright, and there's some dudes out there. What if Roshan Johnson suddenly comes into his own? What if Kendre Miller gets traded to a different team? All right. We're going to hear from Matt one more time. And on the other side, we'll be back with some starts and sits, you guys, because it's week 1 in the NFL season 2024. How excited are you? All right.
Let's go.
Here's Matt.
Now, I know many of you are looking for a secret weapon for your Dynasty League, and I have it. It's called the Dynasty Dominator app. You go to the App Store, go to Google Play. It's right there. It's $5 to download, and then every year it's $5 to load the next incoming class of rookies. You can add Superflex, add tight end premium. It's incredible because it allows you to look up players. It allows you to vote on whether a player is a buy, hold, or sell, and then see the market sentiment on that player. And you can compare their lifetime value rating from Player Profiler to their Dynasty ADP at the FFPC, all in the price lookup tool. And beyond that, we have a trade analyzer, so you'll never lose another Dynasty trade again. And in our settings, you can set this is a win now team, this is a rebuilding team, and then we let you compare players. Look at their metrics side by side, prospect metrics, NFL metrics. It's all there. It's $5 in the App Store. There's some add-ons for Superflex and to buy the upcoming rookie class. Every year, you're going to spend $5 on this thing, and it's going to be well worth it.
Worth it. All right. Let's do some starts and sits. Everybody, drop your start sits questions into the comments real quick, and we will address them. And also, don't forget to watch on the Player Profiler. So go over to not the Player Profiler News channel, which is where we're at now, but on YouTube, go to the Player Profiler channel and come see me on Thursday night with the Thursday night tailgate with my co-host Mike Lindberg and our producer Schultze, who was in the chat talking smack about Zeus. All right, we got 2 games kicking off before Sunday. Thursday, we got the Ravens and the Chiefs on Thursday Night Football, and then Friday on Peacock only. It's a Peacock exclusive, so go get your free trial now so that you don't miss the Packers and the Eagles. So let's go ahead and start with the Ravens. Do you have any specific starts or sits that you are looking at?
Yeah, so for the Chiefs, all right, let me give the Ravens. Actually, Zay Flowers, that's a big start. This guy is about to have a huge season. The Ravens record books, they're not flooded with high octane pass reception numbers. I think Zay Flowers has the ability to break some records this season. Lamar's coming off a second MVP season. This is the number 1 option from the wide receiver room. We've seen Mark Andrews get banged up here and there, but I think Zay Flowers, who, had some catching issues last season and, some missed opportunities with touchdowns. But I think in his second season, he can bring it all together and really put up some points as a good flex, weekly flex option for you. I've got him as like in my leagues, I've been getting him as my wide receiver 4 or 5 a bunch of times, and I think we're gonna rock and roll with that. And he's really the main guy, receiver wise. We're not too worried about Bateman, so I just feel like it's just wide open for him to have a really big season. And in that trade section, I was gonna ask you about one of these Chiefs receivers, but I might let you go ahead and speak on it. Because I just feel like everyone was sleeping on Rashi Rice this whole time, and I feel like maybe he was kind of a riser that we forgot to mention.
Yeah, essentially what happened was the narrative changed when he got his DUI and there was a looming suspension that could happen, and then they got Hollywood Brown, and then Xavier Worthy comes in, and then everybody looks at it as an offense that runs through Travis Kelce. And I typically don't roster Chiefs wide receivers. It's either Kelce or nothing for me. But if I was going to, I don't think that Rashi Rice's value is hurt at all by Hollywood coming in. Hollywood's hurt anyway. We'll see if he's going to play on Thursday.
Sit Hollywood.
Xavier Worthy he's an absolute beast in best ball, but I don't see him doing a whole lot in terms of like high target volume or high yardage games or anything like that. He'll have, 2 catches for 78 yards and a touchdown, but Rashee Rice is going to be the wide receiver target leader as long as Hollywood's off the field, and they're probably going to split pretty evenly when they're both on the field at the same time. But Kelce is still the dude. So I love Rashee Rice. I love him at his suppressed value. I feel like we get caught up in narratives too often, and there were too many fades on Rashee Rice. I think he's absolutely rosterable, and and if you put him in your flex or even as a wide receiver too, I think he's going to carry his value, but especially in flex if you got him a little bit late.
All right, so that's Zay Flowers, Rashee Rice. We know we're starting Henry. We know we're starting Pacheco and the quarterbacks.
Right.
But the big question is, when do we start Xavier Worthy? Week 1?
I think that's a matchups issue, and I don't like him against the Ravens.
All right, there we go.
But I did want to address something real quick, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs in their quest for 3. I have them picked as the reigning Super Bowl champions, Dynasty, 3-peaters, whatever. However, there is a flaw. There's a chink in the armor. Their defensive backfield is not up to Steve Spagnuolo's standard, okay? And watching some of the preseason action, the announcers who were Chiefs announcers were talking about the fact that the Chiefs are struggling to put together a pass defense. As soon as they said that, in the first quarter of that game, their pass defense was garbage. There were holding penalties all over the field. They were getting burned. So you're gonna start Zay Flowers. Start Rashad Bateman.
Oh,
just in case,
spicy.
Because it's gonna be like I have been burned by the Rashad Bateman bug enough times that I have zero confidence in him. But if there's gonna be a game where he blossoms, it could be this one. You're starting Mark Andrews. Start Isaiah Likely. If Isaiah Likely is on the field, and we should hear something before Thursday night, whether he's going to be, because he essentially could be the wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3. So if you're in a deeper league and you have multiple tight end options to put into the flex spot, Isaiah Likely is a very, very high efficiency wide receiver. This is the second year of Todd Monken's offense. The defense is not going to be able to focus on the receiving game because they have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson there. So Monken could very well dial up a whole ton of RPOs where Lamar is going to be needing to throw the ball in the medium over the middle. And if Isaiah Likely's in the game, he and Mark Andrews could absolutely feast. And Zay Flowers is right there too. I feel like the Ravens win this game, and I think that Lamar has a big passing game. But that's just me.
Hey, I'm with it. Theo Grimminger was on my show, Dynasty Football Key, and he said the same thing. He thinks Isaiah Likely's the top 3 target in that offense. So let's go.
Yeah, and make sure that if
That's
if you
stash.
hear nothing, don't start him. If you hear that he's actually going to be getting a whole lot of wide receiver reps or a whole lot of run in 12 personnel, then he's absolutely worth a flex start, just in case. But yeah, I feel like this is the make or break game for Rashad Bateman. If you put him in and you lose your week because he had 2 points, feel free to like drop him and never look back, because that's what I would do. But all right, and moving on to Friday, we got the Packers and the Eagles.
Yeah, man. Is this even in America? Where is this game being played?
It's in Sao Paulo,
Corinthians
Brazil.
Arena. Corinthians Arena in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Wow.
Yeah. Again, make sure you get Peacock set up, so that you don't miss it. I think this one's pretty straightforward. You're starting AJ Brown, you're starting Devontae Smith, you're starting Jalen Hurts, you're starting Saquon Barkley, you're starting Jaden Reed, you're starting Jordan Love, you're starting
Christian Watson, I'm starting him.
Christian Watson. Yeah, Christian Watson
This
okay,
is the make or break game for him. If he can't do it after fixing his legs to make him even, then it's over.
He has symmetry. He has symmetry. Yeah, I think that's actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, was there any team in the NFL that did more to bolster their defensive backfield than the Eagles this year?
Dude, they just continue to just keep building over there. Like Howie Roseman's crushing it. I mean, whether it's rookies or free agents, they're just always adding talent. So I just done a show for the Undroppables last night, Cowboys Uncovered, and we talked about the Eagles. And I was saying like I predicted the Eagles are going to win the division because they just keep getting better. So it's just so much talent over there. It's going to be tough to run on them because look, you got Josh Jacobs first year with the team. I think Josh Jacobs is going to get it done, actually, but there's just nothing behind him. So if Jacobs can't get it done in the run game, they're actually going to be kind of stuck since they don't have any depth behind them, in my opinion.
I think
But they have
Emmanuel
a ton of
Bailey would have a
weapons.
quibble with you.
Okay, is he a big Emmanuel? Was Emmanuel Wilson fan?
Is that his name?
The
I thought it was
backup running
Bailey.
back for the Packers. I mean,
See, I don't know his name.
Jacobs is going to get 20 touches minimum, and we'll see if he might be getting 30. I think maybe that's the hot take. Minimum 25 touches for Josh Jacobs, but probably 30 week 1.
30 yeah, that tracks. So the most highly rated lockdown corner in all of college football last year, Quinyon Mitchell, was the Eagles' first round pick. A heavily mocked cornerback out of Iowa, Cooper DeJean, fell into the second round, and the Eagles scooped him up. That's 2 absolute studs in their defensive backfield. On top of that, the Eagles signed Isaiah Rodgers, who they have penciled in as their slot corner. People forget about Isaiah Rodgers because he sat out 2023 on a gambling suspension, but he was pretty darn good in Indianapolis. Now he's in that Eagles defensive backfield. I don't know. I might look for a different matchup if I'm thinking about starting Jordan Love. In my home league, I have Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, and Jaden Daniels. And I feel like matchups wise, I have to go with Dak in that game.
Yeah. And even Daniels has some sneaky upside, and it's almost one of those things where you want to play him while he's healthy. But for me, when you mix in Dak is a little different question. But also Dak only has the one target. It's a super fragile situation for the Cowboys. But I don't know. I like Love. Those are rookies. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. Quinyon Mitchell's that burner that can keep up with Christian Watson. So I like that for their chances to stay on him. But Christian Watson is kind of a freak athlete. I know everyone is high on a lot of the other weapons, but there's still multiple other guys. Romeo Dubes is going to get a touchdown. That's going to happen probably.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's going to happen. I'm not going to be even
This year,
remotely
yeah,
shocked
it'll happen
this
this year.
year.
You're right. You're right.
Okay. Uh, come on, Dontavian Wicks, Bo Melton, if he's still on the team, I think. Come on
Yeah.
now. Like, there's just too much firepower for, and I'm not saying all those guys are firepower, but that wide receiver 5 for them is better than, at minimum, better than the wide receiver 2 for Jaden Daniels.
No, absolutely. And if anything happens to Terry McLaurin, the
Yeah.
Commanders are screwed.
Over.
They're just
Like,
they're
Packers deep.
they're but
Like, that's important.
it just came through. Jalen Tolbert and Jake Ferguson are very mad at you right now. Because Dak has more weapons than just one. So I mean, you're the Cowboys Uncovered guy.
Come on,
you
man.
know.
Yeah, I know Jalen Tolbert is not a weapon. Sorry. Hey, Ferguson had 3 touchdowns in the playoffs, but during the regular season, it was the CeeDee Lamb show.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
All right.
They
Jamie
it's
asks,
over when there's no one else to throw to.
Kayvon Turpin, come on. Is Jalen Wright a good cheap buy right now before it's too late? Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, the next question from them is about Mostert. So too old and dusty, and that's what's going to happen. They re-signed Mostert for 1 year. They phased out Jeff Wilson, so this could easily be the right flippening between Wright and Mostert. Like, who would be surprised if Mostert was the one that was just on the bench most of the season, kind of as a player coach, and Wright's the RB2 behind Chan.
I would be surprised because Mike McDaniel loves him some Raheem Mostert, and is Devon Achane going to be able to stay on the field enough? I love his efficiency. His per carry rates are through the freaking ceiling, but Mostert is the workhorse in that pair. But I mean, what if Mostert we're relying on a 32-year-old 8th year breakout? And then Devon Achane, who's too small. Jalen Wright could be the starting running back in that offense by week 4 if things don't work out for Miami. No, I mean, you like old and dusty, and then
new hotness,
tiny and injury prone. Like everybody said when HM was coming out, like, oh, you got to fade him because he's so small and he's going to get hurt. And what happened?
Yeah, didn't take long. It was actually like instantly he got hurt and then came back and balled out.
Yeah. I mean, average 30 points a game in fantasy, but only do it for 8 games. Like,
it's just we're talking about Monster, who's also used to be injury prone. That could come back up any moment.
Right. And it took him 8 years to finally have the season that we all knew he could.
Yeah. You have to trade Mostert right now if he's on your roster. Yeah. I tried this morning and someone said yuck.
Okay. I'll win the league again.
Thanks. Yeah, right. I'll take another top 5 season.
All right. So yeah, we disagree a little bit on what the Packers are going to be able to do against the Eagles defense. I understand that they're still the Packers offense, and they're one of the youngest teams in the NFL. Jordan Love is fantastic. Jaden Reed is a good wide receiver. Christian Watson, if he's healthy and symmetrical, should be a smash. Let's hope for Luke Musgrave's sake that he stays concussion free this year and we can see his potential. But I do think that Eagles defensive backfield is a little bit beefed up. Cooper DeJean, I mentioned him just because he was their second rounder, but he's also not slated he's not one of their starting cornerbacks. He's probably coming in on nickel packages, if at all. So they still have lockdown guys at just about every spot at the corner position. They have good safeties. They know what they're doing. That system has been in place for a while. And they knew that they needed to address the defense immediately last year, because that's how they fell off the cliff and stumbled out of the playoffs. So, and it wasn't just they added to their offensive line. They got Jeremiah Trotter, linebacker out of Clemson. They knew what to address. Jalix Hunt from Houston
Yeah,
Christian,
it's a
who's a
nice squad.
sleeper.
Oh yeah,
So
gonna be a good season for them for sure.
then you add on top of that the travel, the time change, and uh, it could be a low scoring game.
Yeah, it's not a huge time change, I don't think, though, right? Since it's South America, but yeah, definitely a lot more travel.
I have a
What 10-15 game? I mean, 7-15 game.
I have a buddy from Chile, and he had to fly down to Chile and go to Argentina and stuff, and he was telling me the time change, and it blew my mind because when I
Okay.
think of the globe, I think that it's pretty like straight to here, but it's way over.
Yeah, that's true. So it's more
So
east, further east coast, right?
yeah, it's 4 hours ahead of Seattle.
Okay.
Wait, then that would be oh yeah, it's
So it's
never
like
mind.
1 hour ahead of Philly
East
time.
Coast. Yeah, never mind.
Something.
Never mind.
Yeah,
But
East Coast
still
time.
jet lag.
Yeah, it's jet lag.
And it's Southern Hemisphere, so everything's the opposite. So the
Yeah,
ball's
the
going to spin this
toilets. They gotta
way.
figure that. Yeah.
Jordan Love's going to be throwing with his left hand. Everything's going to look upside down. All right, Kenny Powers. Kenny Powers. First of all, fantastic name. Love the show.
Yeah.
Great character. Secondly, the George Pickens watch, like, that is one of my favorite when he was at Georgia and he came out with that. The memes that came from that pose are some of my favorites of all time. I've used that picture as like my team logo before and everything. Love it. So shout out to you, Kenny Powers.
Yeah, I was in the league with Kenny Powers, and he had changed his name to I'm Pickens Bijan when he had the 101 pick a year ago. Yeah, man. So, hey, thanks for showing some love, Kenny. I mean, and I wanted to mention this guy in the risers. I know we already passed that part, but I felt like Pickens. I mean, we were just waiting to see if Ayuk was going there. I was trying to segue that, but yeah. I mean, he's kind of a riser there too. I don't think you can buy him low anymore unless like the quarterback controversy is kind of depressing the value a little bit. But after week one, the window's over for our guy Pickens.
I got offered a trade this morning. I woke up to this. It's in redraft. It's in the Football Guys Megala Bowl.
All right, let's hear it.
So I'm giving Travis Etienne and George Pickens.
Okay.
And I'm getting Lamar, Zay Flowers, and Najee Harris.
Okay, so you're getting the Lamar Zay stack, which I love. Najee Harris is a solid back that will play. And you're giving up Pickens and what was the other piece?
Travis Etienne
and Pickens. So, workhorse running back and potential, stud wide receiver one in Pickens. But I'm gonna call them a wash on Pickens and the Ravens receiver Flowers. You got the quarterback out of the deal, so whoever got the quarterback, that's who I think won. I can't remember which side got what.
So it's single quarterback redraft.
Okay, single quarterback.
My quarterbacks are Aaron Rodgers and Jaden Daniels.
Yeah. You're locking in. Like, give me the Lamar right now, and then you're the side that has Lamar, right? That just got Lamar.
I would be getting, but
yeah, I'm good with that.
Travis Etienne and George Pickens are two of my big flag plants this year.
That's
I
nice.
love them so much, and I even named the team Public Etienemies. So how do I make a logo, name the team after him, and then trade him away?
Because that was good value. The league I'm in with Kenny Powers is my only one quarterback league, and I'd also traded for Lamar Jackson in that league, but it was maybe a couple years ago. And yeah, it's Dynasty. Yeah, I agree with that. Just get that edge with Lamar and Flowers. Just the potential touchdown upside. I think that could even it out between Pickens and Flowers, and it's really just Najee versus Etienne, which it's tough. But Najee's been producing. He's been the only healthy back the last 4 years. He's the only guy that's played every game.
But I love George Pickens so much.
Kenny Power says, good upgrade. You can move the quarterback now. Prefer the Lamar side. Boom.
I know, but I don't want to. All right.
Right, back on track.
You guys, that's our show. Enjoy all of the action this weekend. Make sure that you are subscribed on all of our channels. Player Profiler News. You can find me on Twitter at BigBonedFFB. You can find Alec where?
Yeah, I'm Alex. You can find me at Dynasty F Key on Twitter.
Why did I think it was Alec? Alex. Yeah.
Hey,
And
we're just getting started. And hey, great first show with you, bigz, man. Really appreciate it. Hey, I'm excited for this season, man. This is what we've been waiting for the whole summer, and it's here. We made it.
It's here. It's here. Don't forget Player Profiler today on Friday, right here on Player Profiler News. Also, the Thursday night tailgate, 4:30 Pacific time before the game. That'll be with me and Greinberg and Schultze. And other than that, you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy all of the football because it's back.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.